Hello, I'm Bruce DePoy. Coming up today here on News Talk, imagine what it was like to be next to Pope Francis during his travels through the Washington area. Our first guest today was there virtually every step of the way. We'll talk today with Cardinal Donald Wuerl, the Archbishop of Washington, as he reflects on his experience and on what he hopes is the lasting legacy of the Pope's encounters with D.C. area Catholics. Also with us today here in the studio is D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson. We'll talk with him about the city's response to the crime spike and the decision to hire a private ambulance service to ease the shortage caused by the increase in calls for service. Also with him, we'll look at what taxpayers can expect in return for the city's commitment to the Wizards' new practice facility in Southeast. Your calls included.
From News Channel 8, this is News Talk with Bruce DePoy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in on this Thursday. It's great to have you with us today. We will get to our conversation with the Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal Donald Wuerl, straight ahead. Joining us up first here in the studio is D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson. We visit with Chairman Mendelson every month at this time. It's great to have you here.
Good to be here.
There's a lot going on. Thanks very much for your time.
Sure.
Can we get your reaction off the top to the news that the NTSB believes the situation at Metro, particularly on the rail side, is such that much more robust federal oversight is needed and needed urgently?
It speaks to the problems that we've all seen and suspected over the last several months with regard to Metro, its reliability. I think the system is still safe, but of course what NTSB is charged to do is to ensure that every step that could be taken is taken to ensure safety for passengers. I don't know that the Federal Railway Administration is the right agency, but clearly the message from this is that we have to step up oversight with regard to ensuring safety.
Do you expect this to happen?
I expect something will happen. I know that the Transportation Planning Board for the region, which I chair and is comprised of representatives from Maryland, Virginia, and the district, is concerned that Metro is operating effectively and reliably.
There have been so many issues. The NTSB, I mean, when I was, yesterday I moderated a panel for the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance, and this was one of the, we were fortunate, it worked out well, that Jack Requa, the interim head of WMATA, was previously scheduled to be part of that panel. And so the first question that we all had for him was, what's your take on all this? And he sort of sidestepped the notion that this was anything new or urgent. He basically said in so many words, there's an alphabet soup galaxy of potential overseers out there, and we'll work with whoever our overseers are. Do you glean from what the NTSB is saying that there's a real issue here and a sense of urgency, and that now is the time to really step up?
Well, you know, I was thinking when you said new and urgent, I'm thinking old and important. I don't think it's new. I think we've seen for a number of months that there are issues with Metro, both financially and in terms of reliability and in terms of having perfect safety record. And I say perfect because, you know, I ride Metro Rail. I don't think twice about riding Metro Rail, but that doesn't mean that the system can't be better. And it has to be. I mean, that's just how we design transportation in this country, is that it's not just good, it's not just better, it is as good, and then still we strive for more. And that's clearly the message that Metro, the message to Metro and about Metro.
A lot of the focus right now and a lot of the ire is directed at the people running the agency now. Is it possible that our anger is misdirected and that the chief cause of the issues the agency is facing now, so many people right now are saying, Metro, it used to be so good. Is it possible that the primary responsibility belongs with all of us in the region who saw the issues coming in terms of the building backlog of maintenance and a high price tag connected with that, and didn't do enough to get a handle on things when prior to this more crisis environment?
Well, yes, it's possible that that's a way of accounting for it. I think that We could say blame, or we could just say responsibility is broad. So Congress says, Maryland, Virginia District, you need to do something. Well, Congress is part of the solution as well. A lot of folks are saying, general manager or board, you need to do something, and we need to see a change. But it's more than that. It's the governors and the leadership in the district. It's the responsibility for how we got here and the responsibility for getting out of what we're in is broad.
Chairman Mendelson, stand by for just a moment. We turn now to the man who was at Pope Francis's side seemingly every step of the way as the Pope made his way around Washington for several days last week. Cardinal Donald Wuerl, the Archbishop of Washington, joins us now. Cardinal Wuerl, thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure to be able to talk with you today.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
What was it like to be alongside Pope Francis as he traveled throughout the Washington area?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is it was an exciting time, but I also found that it was very inspiring. Seeing the reaction of people to this wonderful Pope, I found to be exhilarating and inspiring. Everywhere he went, there was this outpouring of affection for him, and when you're alongside of him, you're seeing the faces of all these people who are trying to see him or take his picture, and you realize here in this community we're a slice of the whole planet. Everybody's represented here, and to see the joy, to see the enthusiasm, to see the outpouring of love directed to our Holy Father, for me, was very inspiring.
Any pope is going to draw a huge crowd. Any city that has a papal visit is lucky to get one. But I sensed, from a distance, admittedly, that there was something special about the desire to be close to and to see, and perhaps have to be close to the Pope, to see the Pope, and perhaps have a moment with him. A lot of people who were in a crowd said, he looked at me, and that seemed to be very meaningful. If that was your perception and feeling as well, and I'm guessing it was, can you articulate what it is about this Pope that seems so special?
Yeah. I think people are seeing in him an authenticity. They're seeing in him a reflection of the gospel in its simplicity and in its authenticity that makes people want to be with him. The number of people that just want to touch him. And I think you're right. I heard over and over again people say to me, he looked right at me. And I was thinking there were 25,000 people in that crowd. But everyone seems to have that sense that he is so genuine and that he wants to be with them, that he actually is present to them. A lot of it grows out of who he is personally. It's true, he's Pope, and everybody wants to be near the Pope because of who he is. But this Pope has a way of smiling, of touching people's hearts with his simplicity that makes them want to be with him. Even those people who aren't a part of our household of the faith, but feel he's speaking to them as well.
I wish I could. I'm going to steal an observation from one of the other commentators who was on television, and if I had the memory to say who it was, I would give credit where credit is due. The notion was that now I've forgotten my point. I know what it was. That when the Pope seems to light up and be most himself when he is with real people, so to speak, the average person, children to be sure, and seniors, and perhaps people who are struggling in life. The Pope that you see when he's with officials and high-level people with titles, I'm sure he's happy to be with them too, but it wasn't the same. Is that a fair observation?
I think that's an excellent observation, Bruce. What happened, at least what I observed, was he's the same person with everyone, whether it's the Congress of the United States or whether it's street people that are there for a meal. But when he wades into a crowd of people, especially if they are your working people, the ordinary people of the community, or as happened at Catholic Charities, when he waded into that whole tent full of people being fed, something came over him. He was as if saying, here I am with the people who really need to be embraced. And I found that to be so beautiful, but it was reciprocal. The people who were reaching out for him, touching him, saying he is with us, were everybody, but in a particular way, the poor and the people who have need for someone to look at them and recognize them. And then, of course, the young people. For every visit that I saw him with young people, there was an energy and a connecting that you don't normally see with young people and young adults. It was beautiful to behold, but I think it was all because of who he is and how he touches people.
Forgive me for stepping in there. We happen to be looking at video of the parade. Were you expecting to be in the parade, and what was that like?
Well, listening to that roar of the crowd as he started down the parade route, I found that to be somewhat overwhelming. There was such an outcry, a roar, applause, cheers, that in that open Popemobile, we weren't able to hear each other. It was a joy, and of course the Pope's face was just a beautiful sight to behold. This huge smile. If you can see love written in a face, it was written all over his face as he looked and responded to those crowds of people, and reaching out to touch anyone who could get close enough through security to reach him.
Beyond the obvious excitement of having one of the world's best known and most respected people here on the streets of the nation's capital, what do you hope is the lasting legacy of his time here in terms of, I'll throw out a few things, but please add yours, church attendance, volunteerism, giving to others, an ethos of helping those with challenges that maybe some of us are blessed not to have quite so much. Can you put into words what you hope is the lasting legacy?
I think the lasting legacy, Bruce, is when our Holy Father, now he's back in Rome, when we look at what that trip meant, what did that visit mean to us, I hope we're going to see that same goodwill that permeated this city for a couple of days when he was here, and the conviction that if we all work together, if we're all prepared to come together, recognize there are problems, and face them, we can actually resolve them. But what he kept telling us was, and I hope this remains, love one another, be good to one another, take care of one another, care for one another. As he said in his address to Congress, the golden rule, just do to others as you would want them to do to you. I think that's going to be the lasting legacy if we in this city, if we in this country can say, you know, we're going to take to heart that challenge. It is doable. We can build a better society. That'll be the legacy. Were you as surprised, Cardinal, as the rest of us were, to find out after the visit that the Pope met with Kim Davis? And do you have any insight into what words may have been exchanged, what he might have said to her? No, I really never try to figure out what this Holy Father is going to do, or who he's going to see, or when he's going to see them. The one thing that I have come to appreciate with this Pope is he seems to embrace everybody and is prepared to meet and talk to everybody. And that just seems to be another example of it, the openness of this Pope to be there for everybody who comes to him. Lastly, sir, and we appreciate very much your time this time, while he was in Philadelphia, the Pope met with 5 people who were sexually abused as children. Yesterday, we interviewed a representative from the group SNAP, the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, and the representative said he hoped that the small group who met with the Pope got some benefit from their time with him, but he said that the meeting did nothing for the many thousands of other victims. Here's just part of what he told us.
There are so many things he could have done. Could have asked for the publication of all abusers, the diocese, each individual diocese. Now, some dioceses do that, about 30 of them. But he could ask the diocese to publish the names of all the abusers or all those who covered up, and he didn't do any of those things. So he's not helping to protect children, unfortunately.
Your reaction to that, Cardinal Wuerl?
Yeah. One of the things that I think the Holy Father highlighted in meeting with those victims, there is a real issue here in our country. There are many, many people who are abused. One of the things the Catholic Church has done is recognize that and has responded in a remarkable way. The programs we have for protecting young children, the programs we have for helping children identify if they find themselves in a situation of concern, and certainly the zero tolerance policy that has removed from priesthood anybody who has been involved in the abuse of a child. All those are wonderful, wonderful steps forward. I think what the Pope is saying is we have faced this problem with great integrity, and I think the decision to meet with victims of other parts of society says maybe we as a whole society ought to take a look at how well we're protecting children from any type of abuse. I thought the Pope was encouraging and open and pointing how much has been done in an extraordinary way. Remember, we're talking about something that goes back to people who claim they were abused even 50 years ago.
Right.
And we have responded with great integrity. I think his message was keep working at seeing that no child is abused and keep embracing every victim so they know they're loved and cared for by the Church.
Cardinal Donald Wuerl, the Archbishop of Washington, thank you very much for being so generous with your time. It's really nice to have the opportunity to speak with you today. When we return, we'll go back to our conversation with DC Council Chairman Phil Mickelson.